Everybody, welcome to your midweek episode of A Cow's Opinion. What is the cow's opinion, you asked? I'm glad you asked. The cow's opinion is that I, the advanced game cow, will go throughout the internet and find the greatest and most horrifying news, rants, articles, whatever of game industry news that is happening and tell you my thoughts on it. Remember that this is a cow's opinion. There's no use getting upset over it. It is a moot point. It doesn't matter. And today, for this episode, I want to start with Netflix going hard into the paint for those video game adaptations. In fact, they have 15 AAA game franchises. Now, if you've been paying attention, the article goes here. Thank you to Owen Good, because we like to give people at Polygon, we like to give credit where credit is due. Owen talks about how The Last of Us is going to be on HBO Max, and for the love of God, let that be good, and Fallout may not be too far behind on Amazon. But remember that the king is Netflix, because Dragon Age Absolution is going to be out very soon. It may even be out by the time you see this video, and it's got 15 other projects, not counting stuff it's already shown off, like Arcane, Cuphead, and Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which was a fantastic show, and you should watch it. Now, the article just goes through and talks about how, hey, how about Assassin's Creed, huh? How about Beyond Good and Evil? You're probably going to get that freaking TV show before you get Beyond Good and Evil 2. BioShock, anybody? Which would be phenomenal if you can do that right. Castlevania Nocturne, which is the sequel to the previous season of Castlevania, with a time skip to another Belmont, and I love that, by the way, because you follow the game that it's based on, and then you don't try to stretch it out, you don't try to add a bunch of stuff that's unnecessary, you do the game, and then you have, we're done. Next Belmont, please, because it's a huge history. How about freaking Devil May Cry, which the people who made Castlevania are making, and the scripts for Season 1 was finished, and first year would consist of 8 episodes. It's made with a multi-season arc. Production is supposed to begin earlier this year. Yes, and of course the already mentioned Dragon Age Absolution, which looks phenomenal. It's got freaking Matthew Mercer in it, not to mention also people like Ashley Birch. That's a really good cast that they have. Series will run for 6 30-minute episodes and tell the story of a heist gone sideways, and I kind of like this smaller series look because, you can then do like the same team doing other heists. You don't have to stretch it out over 12 episodes with massive long flashbacks on characters we don't care about. How about Dragon's Lair? That's a really old 1980s Laserdisc game. And most of us were not even born then. I was not born then. About Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which is a really surprising, and even the article goes, knows exactly what this will be, but they're developing something called Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, which I kind of love. Gears of War is both an adult animated series and a feature film that's been envisioned for 15 damn years. Batista himself was on Netflix showing himself dressed up as the Cog. If this man does not get to Gears of War, then we have failed as nerds. Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm so excited by some of these. First revealed in a Sony's picture briefing to investors back in May is really good. Pokemon's going to have a live action series too. That's freaking weird, and I don't know if it can even be done as a live-action series, but Sonic Prime, the animated series, is coming this December, and looks not bad, actually. And, it's going to be Ashley Ball's Tales, but it's going to be caused by Eggman, of course it is. The Division is possibly going to be a feature film. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell is an animated adaptation of the action video game franchise, and hasn't even had a game in decades. And of course, Tomb Raider, which was really, really interested a long time ago, but animated adaptation still hasn't been given a window of release date. Now, what does the cow think of this? Well, Netflix has done a pretty damn good job, especially with their animated stuff. And it gets viral, and it goes on, it gets hot, and a lot of people watch it. So I think that a lot of this stuff has a good shot if you do it right. Now, the question is it going to be right? Because for every Castlevania franchise that we get, Let us all hold a moment of silence for the Resident Evil Netflix show. And then let us screw that moment of silence because it sucked. It was terrible. Why did they do that? It was god awful. I'm sorry. The cow likes to be positive. You know me. I don't like to just dump on people because I know that there were people who worked really hard on that show. The show had some phenomenal CGI. They put budget into it. But when even the Japanese fans are not happy with your show, then you've done something wrong. And they had the same complaints that American and European and worldwide audiences. Why is Wesker black all of a sudden? Why did you move the series setting from a Midwestern town in North America to South Africa? Why are you time skipping decades in the show, which makes it harder to care about these characters? Why does Wesker suddenly have kids? What are you doing? Why is it that when people make these shows, that all they do is they rent the name and there's like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to solve. You're not fixing anything. If it's a beloved franchise, it's not broken. Now, I'm not saying that your vision isn't good. The show might have been really good if you had just done your own show, but you didn't do that. You made it Resident Evil, and what we got wasn't... Resident Evil is about a small group of people surviving a terrible event. I don't understand how you mess up that formula. Resident Evil 1 is your first season. You special forces people trapped in a mansion full of undead. Resident Evil 2 and 3 are your next couple of seasons, and can even happen simultaneously if you want to, because they happen simultaneously in the franchise thing, which is Raccoon City getting overwhelmed. You could even start a couple of weeks prior and show the fall of Raccoon City and how these characters get caught behind stuff. I think that would have been really cool, but that's not what they did. Just like the previous movie, which combined Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3, recast characters, literally combined certain characters because, like, well, you know, we only have 2. Why are you trying to do an entire... It would be hard to do an entire Resident Evil game as just a single feature film. Why are you trying to combine 1 and 2 into a 2-hour movie? You're stupid. Stop it. I can understand why Capcom keeps trying, letting people try, because their animated Resident Evil features are great, and because, you know, they're getting money out of this, and they really want to grow the franchise, but I think people are finally starting to realize that if you're going to take not just inspiration from something, but if you're really going to make that thing, you need to adhere, fairly close to the source material. It doesn't mean you can't make changes. If you have a phenomenal actor or actress for a part, I mean, I'm not talking like just some, I really want to cast this person. If you have a really great actor who gets the characters, maybe is even a fan of the series, and you're like, well, look, guys, they're a huge fan. They know the character. They really want to do it. Fans have accepted that before. We don't care. It's when you just suddenly start taking 3 characters and combining them into one, and you recast and you redo their plot and their background to where literally the only thing about the character is the name. That's not what people want. They want Resident Evil. They want Assassin's Creed. They want Beyond Good and Evil. They want this. And I feel like, especially as Hollywood has more and more projects that they're having to cancel, and more stuff that is just bombing or performing below expectations, which is when they're being polite and it bombed, but they don't want to say it bombed. That's the kind of stuff that makes people go, oh, you're finally getting it. And I don't want anyone to fail. I know there's been some very high-profile crash and burns, and that does make me upset, because I know a lot of people put their heart and passion for like 6, 8, 10 months or more into getting this thing onto your movie screen and onto your TV and onto your computer. And it sucks that it was not going to succeed because of decisions that were made by people who just don't get it. Henry Cavill has said, I'm not doing anything beyond Witcher 3 because the writers seem to just hate The Witcher. They don't love the source material, they don't love the books, they don't like the games. And he has to fight and rewrite stuff, and I don't understand why a writer would work on a show where they're like, this is stupid and I don't like it, and Because why are you here? Plenty of other writing jobs. Go write your own stuff. But, it's The Witcher, so it gets a big budget, and people want to be part of that, so it brushes up their resume. But you're bringing it down, man. And I don't know if we're going to get any good Witcher after Season 3. I hope we do. But with all the changes they've made and the compression, now you've driven off your actor whose passion is what brings the fans in. I don't know. But why don't you let me know what you feel and what you think and what you like and don't like about all this in the comments below, as well as you can like, comment, and subscribe, because that really helps the channel. And I've been told I have to say that more, but I'm not going to say it too much more because I just like you guys and I want to do this stuff for you. We're going to move on to our next segment now. Our next story continues the long march of Activision Blizzard, as a European Commission has responded to a perceived bias in Microsoft's Activision merger. This is from Tweaktown. Mr. Derek Strickland. That's kind of a cool name. Now, we'll get to this update in just a second, but the European Commission has responded to reports of perceived bias in favor of Sony regarding the Activision-Microsoft merger. Now, as you all know, Microsoft is trying to buy Activision. Sony, despite the fact that they constantly pay for exclusive content, says it's not fair for Microsoft to have exclusive content. So they've been telling anybody and everybody that they can that this should not happen. It would hurt gamers. And Microsoft's had a very weird, well, it wouldn't really be that bad kind of defense. So it's kind of wonky and weird. Earlier, on November 8th, the European Commission announced that it would be opening a Phase 2 investigation into the $68.7 billion merger, and that this is customary, especially once it can shake up entire industry. So it's not unforeseen, and it's not like, oh, we're finding a way to shut this down. The problem with this particular story is that Ricardo Cardosa, the deputy head of Unit Institutional and Outreach at the European Commission, that's a damn word, made a particular tweet that drew the ire of all gamers. The Commission is working to ensure that you will still be able to play Call of Duty on other consoles, including my PlayStation, which led people to believe he was biased in favor of Sony, and that the EC will in turn be swayed against approving the merger. Now, Cardosa is not involved in the merger process in any way. He's part of something called GROW, that relates to institutional relations and outreach. So he's more of a PR guy, I think, and not more of a commission specialist. He doesn't have any say or pour. And that the EC has a specific department for mergers called Comp, run by the Directorate General for Competition. He's not in Comp, and he's not going to be assisting. But this is a terrible look when somebody, hey, we're totally going to make sure this doesn't happen. The EC spokesman had to respond via email to the article's request. As you've correctly pointed out, Mr. Cardosa works in the Director General for Internal Market and not in the Directorate General for Competition, is not involved in the assessment of this transaction. Furthermore, as indicated clearly in his Twitter profile, he tweets in a personal capacity. Now, this looks really bad, but they're trying to say that, hey, nothing bad is going to happen. Now, of course, popular comments are, how does this guy say the commission is working to ensure and at the same time claim his tweet was personal? Because, yeah, it's a really bad look. What's even worse of a look, though, if you click on this profile thing right here, the commission banner is in his profile. Deputy Head of Unit International and Outreach views mine. But you're using your workplace. So you're saying, these are my views, but I'm totally in the European Commission, guys. And also industry, competition, sport, gaming, and pop culture. I was one of many people probably who has tweeted at him, you're an idiot. At best, this is just a bad look. For somebody to say, hey, we're doing the standard investigation, but I'm totally not going to... I'm totally not going to let this change because I like my PlayStation. I want to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. What is this guy? if you don't understand why this was a bad look, then you shouldn't have been tweeting this. You're an idiot. Now, there was an update, which is readers have correctly pointed out that Ricardo Cardoso had previously spent 17 years with the competition department, which is the department that handles mergers and acquisitions, and previously served as deputy head. So he knows everybody there. He may have pull there. This is a terrible look, and you're an idiot. Here's the tweet that started it. And he's joking about how his, offices have changed. God, this man's an idiot. It boggles my mind how stupid people can be sometimes. You worked in the place. You have tons of connections. This tweet was from June. You're trying to tell me that in as little as 5 months, any power or sway or people you know there won't listen to you anymore? He's definitely got... God, he's an idiot. I mean, I want to hear your opinions, but my opinion is that this man is an idiot and has potentially opened up the EU to a lawsuit if they don't give Microsoft the green light, because somebody with pull in the agency has said, I'm not going to let this happen before we even see any proof. So yeah, this man, Ricardo Cardoso, you all are idiot of the day. Moron. And speaking of morons, how about that segue? You shouldn't be one, and you should subscribe. Did you know subscribing increases your intelligence score by 5%? Give it a try. You'll love it. But seriously, if you can, like, comment, subscribe. It really does help me out. And we are going to look at the other... We've looked at stupidity, now let's look at greed. Because Bank of America, thanks to Ethan Gatcher at Kotaku, actually downgraded Hasbro. If you don't know Hasbro, they are the toy company who makes, nerd stuff like Transformers and G.I. Joe. But their big revenue chases are things like Magic the Gathering, and right now, their biggest revenue is Dungeons & Dragons. Now, some people have been complaining that Dungeons & Dragons might be going a little off the rails too much, but that's not what this article is about. It's talking about how Magic the Gathering, the collectible card game that you can buy physically or digitally and play, has been having a ton of crossover sets, promotional releases, and new sets released, and it's not in your head. People have been complaining about it for months, and then Bank of America downgraded the toy company after accusing it of killing its golden goose with greed. So, Bank of America, and this is Jason Haas, reported on CNBC that they've been releasing way too many cards and too many sets. People don't have time to collect them. People don't have time to get used to the new metas that they're creating. And instead of expanding the number of players, Hasbro has been making a lot of extra money on Magic the Gathering because they are actually just charging the existing player group more and more. But if you ever played a gacha game or anything like that, if you get charged too much, you just stop playing, and it greatly decreases revenue. He specifically took aim at the upcoming 30th anniversary set containing booster packs, some of which will include reprints of valuable out-of-print cards from the collectible card game's early years. This set has devalued many high-value cards, and collectors are concerned that Wizards will reprint more. Now, the message boards have been talking about this, including stuff like the infamous Black Lotus worth hundreds of thousands. There are certain cards that are very powerful, very beautiful, very wonderfully sought-off cards, and Wizards has not reprinted them after the original sets, and that is something that the collectors like because it helps their value. But now they're worried that that value is going to crash, because if you only have like 10 or 15 of a card left, it's pretty valuable. If you start saying, hey, we're going to print another 1,000 of these, and the market for that card craters. Fans were frustrated that the 30th anniversary set includes just 4 booster packs for $1,000. It's not an error. Well, I had to look it up on a second site because I thought maybe the dude mistyped. No, not 100, 1,000. Essentially turning the beloved card's storied history into 2022's worst real-life loot box. Mr. Ethan, you are... Mwah. Now, Hasbro has had Wizards of the Coast, which is the makers of Magic the Gathering, since 1999. Solid stock price slide 5% today. The company was at 102 at the start and is now down below 60. If you don't understand stocks, that's okay. Even I'm not that bright on them, but losing about half of your volume, excuse me, not your volume. Well, yeah, your trading volume is down too, actually. I looked it up on CNBC earlier. Not only are people not interested in buying, but your shares have lost half of their value. Now, the article reminds us that Magic the Gathering traditionally only released 3 sets per year. But more recently, they've been introducing a ton and have been flooding people with tons of stuff, including Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Streets of New Capenna, Commander Legends, The Battle for Baldur's Gate, Double Masters 2022, Dominaria United, and Warhammer 40k, a new set called The Brothers Wars later this week, and with it, cards based on the actual Transformers that we were talking about earlier in the article. That's at least 7 products in 7 months, which is absurd. It is. A card game can only really support 2 or 3 expansions per year. And even then, you got to be pretty good to be able to absorb that much. Joe Pollock wrote at The Gamer in May. The release schedule has constrained that sense of discovery into just a month, until the new hot thing rolls around, burning people out. What's the point in looking at these new cards when something new is just around the corner anyway? Unfortunately, the article goes on, they're not stopping because they still have Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Final Fantasy VII, and Assassin's Creed coming by the end of the year. Oh no, that's 2023 and 2024. The McDonald's collaboration can't be far behind. So this is not good. I mean, I understand that this and Dungeons and Dragons are making a lot of money, but fans are starting to complain that the sheer amount of content that's coming out is impossible to consume and appreciate. It's like, look, everyone loves Call of Duty, but if Call of Duty had a major expansion with tons of new maps, tons of new weapons, tons of new levels and skills, and even new campaigns to play, released monthly, month after month after month, you have to give people, not everyone has, jobs and lives set up to where they can consume all this content. You've got to give them time for the average person to go through, and they're really just not doing well. I don't think Hasbro had time because I believe this was published yesterday at around noon. And then Bank of America downgraded it, and then I don't think Hasbro did very well today either in the stock market, so that's unfortunate. Let's actually find out. Yeah, they're at 57. Dadgummit. Sometimes CNBC just breaks and it refuses to search. But if I do it on my Google instead of my internet, my Microsoft search, it's fine. So yeah, they are at 57.30. That is very close to half of their money gone in just 11 months. That is not good. Part of it's beyond their control. Now that people can go outside and have lives again after global you-know-what that we won't say because I don't want the algorithm to crush and suppress us. But after that, people are like, well, you're not going to be playing digital and collectible card games as much anymore. You're not going to be playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons over the internet anymore. And, I mean, people won't, but it doesn't mean they're still not going to... These products are still going to be strong, but not at the rate they're producing content. So I'm not really sure. We're going to move on to the next story, but I feel like this is not looking good for Hasbro. I think that Wizards of the Coast, which makes these products, is just... I don't know if it's them or if it's Hasbro pushing them too hard, but you've got to really just, calm the hell down. Let's move on to the next story. In a little bit lighter news than usual, all 285 issues of Nintendo Power are now available online. If you don't know what Nintendo Power was, it is the gaming magazine. It was obviously Nintendo only, but it was fantastic. It went for 285 issues, which is a lot. It was a monthly magazine Do the math. That's decades of them. And especially back when they had the NES, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have a ton of ways to look up things, but Nintendo Power had comics, reviews, in-depth guides, suggestions. I even remember one time, I wrote a letter because I couldn't get past a puzzle in an RPG, and I gave up, and then a month later, after I finally gave up, there was a letter, and the guy nicely gave me the solution to figuring it out, and I was like, oh my god. And I finally managed it. It was Lufia 2. I managed to beat Lufia 2. That's an actual great game, by the way. It was discontinued in 2012, although it is a podcast now. But was the essential source of reviews, previews, and strategies, and thanks to community projects, every issue is now updated. It's gone to archive.org if you're interested. It is 40 gigabytes of awesome. And full cover scan. It's really easy to browse. It's fantastic looking. And so this dude, Gumball, or possibly girl, I don't know. It's hard with names. And I said, I've been collecting manuals and stuff for systems I grew up with. It is a big piece of a lot of kids' childhoods and gaming history. So I think it's important that they be available for everyone to read. So he had a Reddit post, and he went on there and to both get appreciation, but also he talked about how he couldn't find a couple of issues, but then another dude happened to have them, and that let him complete the set. Now, I don't know how long this is going to be up. Nintendo is not known for being very nice about these kind of things. There was the guy who was like archiving all of Nintendo's music for free on YouTube. He didn't make any money, but Nintendo sent him a cease and desist. But physical media, is harder to protect now. They're not making it as much as they used to. So this is kind of nice. It's a nice little story. And hopefully Nintendo doesn't just nuke this like they do a lot of other stuff. Because I think it's cool to be able to go back and see what games people were excited about at the beginning of video games. And how far things have come. And hell, you'll be able to compare the original Dragon Warrior to the remake if we ever get a release date on that. But that is this story. It's just a nice little bit of make you feel good. And I like that. Moving on. And in our final news story, Activision Blizzard, or the company that just gives me 90% of my content for this series, is being accused of striking a deal with the current CEO, scumbag Bobby Kotick, to get it at a low price and to protect him. This is from a Swedish pension lawsuit. Now, this is at Capital.com by Miss Jenny McCall. It's a little bit different, but this is a little more financial than you might think. So, as we all know, Activision Blizzard wants to be bought out by Microsoft for about $69 billion. However, a Swedish-run pension fund has sued them and said that the takeover is rigged. The complaint is 205 pages, and it claims that the merger was contrived in order to exploit the sexual harassment claims and protect the CEO, Bobby Kotick. Now, as we all know, there was a lot of scumbag behavior. They abused everyone. I mean, literally. I've said this multiple times before, but the women stood up and said they were being sexually harassed. And the reason why nobody is disavowing this is because the men stood up and said, yeah, not only did they do that, they sexually harassed us too. Which, when you treat your employees equally, is not what they mean. For years, claims of frat house behavior had been reported, and the complaint states that Kotick negotiated a deal with Microsoft that would help him avoid liability for the years he spent leading the toxic work environment. So basically, the accusation says, hey, I'll sell it to you at a lower price that you get a really good deal on if you keep me on hand, you keep my golden parachute, and you don't hold me responsible for the garbage that I did. So Microsoft knowingly exploited the harassment scandal and its commercial leverage over Activision precisely to offer Kotick a way to save his own skin. And the lawsuit claims the deal was hastily negotiated and allows him to stay as CEO, avoid accountability, and a $400 million payout, along with other perks. And now, the complaint is saying that despite Activision shareholders approving the transaction this April, that they were unaware of certain details prior to voting. Microsoft has claimed it did due diligence, which according to the lawsuit means it had full knowledge of the scandal and helped cover it up. So this is just the earlier we talked about the EU's competition watchdog. That you can rewind and go back and watch that. It's a load of garbage as well. But the EU has opened their just standard investigation. I don't know how good or bad that's going to go. As well as whether or not Microsoft's going to stop accessing Call of Duty. I don't think they're ever going to stop it. I think it makes way too much money on PlayStation. Also, having Sony cut you a check every month to help fund their competition is kind of funny. But the ECU has until March 23rd to decide, so that's a 90-day thing. Meanwhile, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority also launched its Phase 2 investigation. Again, Phase 2 means we're not accusing you of doing anything improper, we're just seeing if it is improper. Microsoft has until March 1st to reply to their concerns. They want, Activision, blah, blah, blah. Sony's not happy. Now, Sony's not happy because Sony currently only has a couple years left on their Call of Duty deal. And Microsoft is not currently, and Activision are not currently willing to negotiate anything further, which is both, of course, because new people are coming in, but also because they're doing the merger now. They don't know what the thing's going to look like when it's done, until it's done. And Sony's not happy about that. Sony's saying that they're trying to protect the gamers, but really, for all the time Sony's paid for exclusivity, they're just really upset that they're getting their butts handed to them on this one. Back in September, Microsoft offered Sony to keep the game on PlayStation for 3 years, an offer that Sony said was inadequate on many levels. Now, I don't know if this is going to affect the deal. Again, this is not like regular lawsuits and stuff. It's a very high burden for the government to say, we are not going to approve this transaction in this case. I don't think that this is going to... for first-person shooters, it's a huge franchise. But in gaming worldwide in general, it's kind of going to be tough for the government in a court of law to say this will massively hurt gamers. Because even if Call of Duty goes exclusively Microsoft, which I don't know if it is or isn't, but even if it does, it doesn't stop anybody else from making their own first-person shooter franchise. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of all of this. Now, did Microsoft make a deal with Kotic to buy the company? Yes, of course they did. Now, was that low price because Kotic was trying to save his own skin, or because he had no choice? Now, the Swedish pension fund says that Kotic was just trying to, I'm going to stay there, I'm going to get $400 million for my contract and my shares when they buy us, and I'm going to get to not be held accountable for this stuff. That's what this pension fund is saying. But we have seen other articles in the past showing that Bobby did not want the board to accept that buyout and was actually blindsided a bit by them. So which is it? It might be both. It might be neither. Now, neither just means that, it was all just how it happened. Both might mean that Kotic went to the board and he said, hey, we're not going to sell out. And he's like, yes, we are. This place is garbage and we want to get the hell out of here. Pull the cord. Parachute. Let's go. And that is just how it is. Now, Activision Blizzard, they have these handy graphs on this page, and I really like that. Share price is sitting in about mid-70s, we'll say. Don't worry about that. But yeah, right now, mid-70s. Before all of this stuff started tanking the price, it was about to high-five triple digits, $100. So yeah, Microsoft is buying it for $69 billion. I can't remember what the actual share price is, but it is definitely a discount from what Activision Blizzard was. And if they can just put leadership in that actually works, and if they can put things in that will actually let them make things like the games they want, and stop having these lawyers and Kotick and all these people who don't understand gaming culture from making these crap decisions they made over the past 5 years, then yeah, Activision Blizzard could easily jump up to $100 worth. It could go up to $125. If you get a couple of really great games going with Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, you can have a really huge amount of money. You could be making Rockstar money. Rockstar Games, which makes Grand Theft Auto, if you don't get that reference. So yeah, they're definitely buying it on the cheap, but that's what happens when a company has a bunch of problems and culture issues, but the products are usually good. Now, we've seen things like Warcraft 3 Reforged come out, and they are not good. Warcraft 3 Reforged was the most garbage re-release ever, and didn't look anything like the amazing cutscenes. Well, we just ran out of time. No, that's false advertising. I'm kind of surprised nobody's hitting them with a lawsuit over that. As well as some really terrible decisions like anything you make in a game's creator automatically becomes our property, because Blizzard was unable to get Heroes of the Storm to work as well as they wanted, while Defense of the Ancients and League of Legends make buckets of money every day. But that's still kind of a slap upside the head of your gamers. I mean, if they make a game mode you think is really cool, just say, hey, why don't you come work here or advise here, and we'll make the game here. Maybe we'll cut you in on it or something and get you into the industry, like a lot of gamers do want. I don't know. This is just more bad news. You know, this is how major... I'm not seeing anything that goes against major acquisitions yet. Everybody's always going to be fighting. The pension fund obviously has a lot of shares of Activision Blizzard and thinks that they're not getting enough money per share based on the deal and is trying to juice the price a little. I don't think it's going to work because the price is so much lower than... it's like in the 90s, so it's like $20 lower than what it is now. So it's hard to say you're not getting value for your money, your shares right now. But that is our finale for this midweek update. Let me know in the comments what you think, what you like, what you don't like. Make sure to subscribe as well, and I'll see you guys next time. Play more games. Games are awesome, and you deserve the awesome. I'll see you then.